Apologies about that, guys. Hey, guys, welcome to Little Black Bert 91. We're talking to you guys about a dualistic topic today. We're hitting two topics in one. And the heading is, why do men not plan dates for women? I'll give a few issues as to why. But I'm also going to give a personal account and something that I went through and as I'm unpacking in therapy, and I've unpacked during the course of the last few years. We're going to unpack what I call paralysis by analysis. You've probably heard this term before, paralysis by analysis. And we had, the first time I ever heard this word paralysis by analysis was actually on Ready to Love, crazy enough. And I heard it from Alexis, I think in the Houston season, and she was talking about paralysis by analysis. And so I wanted to bring this to the foreground and hit two topics almost in one. We're going to be here for just less than under half an hour, and hopefully break this topic down in a particular way that's going to bring a unique perspective to this particular topic that you might have never heard before. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notifications of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. Yes, we're here to help educate and entertain. And today, we're going to educate, okay? All right? It's not every day, entertain, all right? If you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to the channel. You can also join our membership. It's £1, it's $1. You can also join our Discord through the link in our description box, which is for our Patreon. And also, you can grab your merchandise, Mineral Gang. Please, if you haven't done so, grab yours as well. We love you to support the team, and we want you to be a part of the family, okay? Let's talk about this topic. Why don't men plan dates for women? Well, let me give you the general perspective, okay? All right? Let me give you the general perspective. I'm going to give 3 points as to why men don't plan dates, right? Number one is they don't see the value in dating, right? They need a broader perspective on what dating actually is. What I mean by this is the person doesn't put value in dating. They don't put value. When I say dating, planning dates, they don't put value in planning those dates, right? They are comfortable being maybe homebodies, or they like to do the bare minimum or low maintenance. And sometimes that low maintenance is coming from, maybe they are really generally just don't want to do anything crazy. But sometimes also as well, because those people who do low maintenance oftentimes are afraid of being disappointed and afraid of disappointing others. So they don't want to plan dates, right? That's one part, right? Number two is money issues, okay? Generally speaking, some guys will pretend, deflect, make all sorts of excuses, but the reality is the money isn't there, okay? Or the money is tight, and it makes them feel like going on a date will constrict them even further, and they are afraid to go on dates because they don't want to look like they're on a budget, or they don't look like they don't want to embarrass themselves because they're not taking you to a particular restaurant or a particular place. And so the date doesn't want to be planned because they'd rather not go down that lane if they know the end result. Oftentimes men try to prevent rather than cure, okay? So they try to get ahead rather than wait until it happens and then fixing it, right? Not all, but some, okay? All right. And number three is they don't like you, okay? They don't like you, okay? Something I'm going to be very honest about, which I think partly played into my own experience, and I'll share some of that in a second or two, is that they just don't like you, or they don't like you enough, which is really wild. They don't like you enough to want to plan those dates. You're not worthy and you're not valuable enough for them to want to plan that date. And it's crazy because some people will date you or be in a relationship with you but not want to plan a date. Okay, so that's the 3 things. Okay, all right, 3 straightforward general reasons as to why men won't plan a date. But I've got a 4th one, something that I actually experienced, something that I went through. And I can give you some personal, sorry about that, guys, some personal breakdown on this. So point number 4 I'm going to give you is paralysis by analysis, okay? Paralysis by analysis. Point number 4 is paralysis by analysis. And the definition of paralysis by analysis is analysis paralysis, or paralysis by analysis, describes an individual or group process where over-analyzing or overthinking a situation can cause forward motion or decision making to become paralyzed. meaning that no solution or course of action is decided upon within a natural time frame. A situation may be deemed too complicated and a decision is never made or made too late due to anxiety. Okay, all right. So in essence, what it means is a person doesn't make a move, they don't make a decision, they don't make an action because they're afraid after they've consumed all the different, analyses of the situation. They now don't know how to move. Okay, all right. So now, what has that got to do with not planning a date? Well, let me do what I did last episode 1, and let me level set. I'm going to start with a story, and then I'm going to break down how that plays a role. Okay, story. The story I gave yesterday, I'm going to tell it again. It's the same story. When I was younger, I asked my dad for help. And when I asked him for help to get my maths homework sorted out, right? I asked him to help with my maths homework. Instead, he beat me when I got the answers wrong. So instead of being compassionate, empathetic, understanding, creating room for me to make mistakes, and then correcting me appropriately, he decided to beat me because that's what he had learned from Africa, from Ghana, if you know anything. It's not just Africa too. Old school Western European teaching methods were to beat children when they misbehaved or when they got things wrong. So, again, I don't want to look at it, so it wasn't such a heavy beating, but it's a case of, it was when I got it wrong, hey, get it right, get your head in shape, or a little toughness, hey, get it right. And every time you do that, I felt a sense of injustice, I felt anger, I felt hurt, I felt pain, I felt all these things because in reality, in reality, what he was trying to get me to understand was I need to get it right. In my head, what I'm hearing is you're not creating a safe space for me to even want to get it right because as soon as I get it wrong, you're going to chastise me, which made me nervous, it made me anxious. So guess what's going to happen now, okay? Now what's going to happen, if you want to call it the translation aspect, if you want to call it that, okay, or the result was, okay, yes, I didn't bring my homework to him, but there was another result that happened from that particular story. One of the other results was whenever I was making a decision that I wasn't 100% sure on, or I didn't have good information on, I would overanalyze the situation, right? So what would happen is I would now start to look at situations and consider considerable amounts of solutions or options to take, okay? That was now the result. As a result of that particular incident, I now knew I can't get things wrong. There's no room, no scope to get things wrong. So what's going to happen now as a translation, I'm going to overanalyze every single situation to make sure I'm never wrong. Okay, all right? That's what I'm going to start doing. And then what that led to was a behavior. The behavior was, it made me freeze or hide from uncertain situations that I had never done before. If I had never done it before and I didn't have any skill set to match, I would never do it. Many of you guys heard me say I'm not going to America. Part of that was paralysis by analysis. I was over-analyzing the situation about where would I go? What room would I need? What hotel would I need? How would I get around? Do I know how to do this? The fear of that made me not want to go. Okay, all right? And so I didn't go the first time round, right? And I ended up going obviously after, okay? Growth had to happen, right? So now the behavior is I'm freezing and I'm hiding from uncertain situations. Okay, all right? I'm hiding from uncertain situations that I had never done before, okay? So let me bring you back in as to why this is going to tie into point number 4 as to why some men might not plan dates. When I was dating or when I was in relationships, I can probably count on my fingers how many times I actually planned a date. I'm going to be honest with you. I can probably tell you on my fingers how many times I planned a date. And here's why I never planned a date. I never planned a date because I was always afraid that if the date didn't go well, the person would judge me and see me as an incompetent individual. And also when I analyzed the situation, I was trying to overanalyze every single scenario in the situation. So let's say if I wanted to plan a date to go dinner If I've never been to that restaurant, I'm afraid that, okay, what would we order? Okay, if we're gonna order this, but what if it's not nice? Okay, how much money would it need? Okay, but how would we get there? Okay, if I can't get there, how would I do this? How would I do that? And what if the car breaks down? Okay, if the taxi breaks down, what happens if that? I literally would overanalyze every situation and I would become exhausted. So I just stopped doing it. Right? If I don't know it, I don't do it because I'm overanalyzing the situation. And then I'm stuck. Right? So I would end up not planning a date somewhere simply because I know I'm going to overanalyze, I'm going to get stuck, and then I won't make a decision to the last minute. And the last minute decisions ain't that great. Oh, let's just go here. Then it doesn't look well thought out. Things often do go wrong because you haven't planned it, right? And then you actually are in a position that you said you didn't want to be in, which is that you now have a poor date, right? Okay, all right. So at that point, what I really began to realize is, okay, I'm now over analyzing situations and over analyzing what can go wrong or what needed to go right, that I didn't want to make a move, rather than just trialing an error and making a mistake. Here's another point about paralysis by analysis. Going back to the story, okay? What also happened was, as a result, I wanted to find the perfect answer to any particular problem. It had to be perfect. But I was also a perfectionist that wasn't perfect. You know, some people are perfectionists and they're actually good at it. You know, some people are actually perfectionists. Where's my flannel? Some people are actually perfectionists and they're actually good. So they can afford to be perfectionists. Some of us are perfectionists and we're not good at being perfect. We're not even good at being well done. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So now I'm now stuck because I want to be a perfectionist and I don't even have the tools to be a perfectionist. Then that would create another paralysis by analysis because I already knew that wasn't perfect. Oh man. I'd find myself, and then at that point it's like, okay, I want to plan the perfect date, but now I'm like, okay, but that's not perfect. You know, that's not perfect. You know, I would always be thinking about different things that would affect my decision making in that point in time. And so I refuse to plan dates, and I pretend I couldn't do it and do everything to delay it, because I was afraid of being judged in that point. Yes, call it insecurities if you want. That is also what it was too, right? Insecurities too, right? But the reality of the situation is I was afraid. I was afraid of making a mistake. That is what my biggest issue was. I was afraid of making a mistake. Okay? And, I was afraid that when I made that mistake, I would be judged for it. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Yeah? So, yeah, Elsa said, where was that when you were asking her out? It wasn't there. Because at points in time, that part wasn't as difficult to me. You get what I'm saying to you? It wasn't as alien to me. I hadn't seen romance in my family. You have to understand something too, right? If I look at my family, I never saw my dad romancing my mum. Especially a lot of Africans know this as well. You don't often see romance. What you see is obligatory love. Okay, people do stuff, acts of service, but you don't actually see romance. You don't actually see, let me take your mum out. Let me, you don't often see, that attentiveness and that care and that love aspect, right? And that does a number on you. So then as a man, when you get to that point, you don't have no reference point. There was no reference point for me, right? I ain't seen that with grandparents. I ain't seen that with mom and dad. I ain't seen that really with uncles. I'm seeing what I see on the screen, but that wasn't enough because what I saw in front of me, I ain't seeing that, right? So that also then became a baseline of comfortability. Or do we have to go on dates? Then that will become part of my excuses. Do we have to go on dates? I got paralysis by analysis, and then I'm going, well, actually, let's be real. Like, why are we even doing so most? Why? Let's chill at home, watch a movie, chill, maybe cook some food, and stay indoors. Well, what's the big deal? We ain't got to do all of that, man. What, go out on an outing? What for? We can watch it at home. Right? You start making all sorts of excuses as well, right? It doesn't come naturally to you. So again, the paralysis by analysis happens because it's not natural to you, right? And so you make excuses for why you're not willing to overcome. Okay. That was also one of the biggest issues that I was feeling. I was afraid of making a mistake and looking incompetent. Number 2, fear of things going wrong and me having to take the blame for it. And I had a fragile ego as well. This is another thing as well. I had a very fragile ego. I associated being wrong with being wrong as a person. Hence why I always mention it too, because I know exactly what it looks like. Having a fragile ego where if you get it wrong, you now look at you as being wrong. So if I got it wrong, or if something went wrong on a date, or this wasn't perfect on the date, I would take it as I'm bad, I'm not good, I'm not up to scratch, I'm not up to standard, I'm not up to levels. I would take it so personally. And rather than actually really and truly looking at it from a perspective of you can improve on this, you can grow from this, I was looking at, to be honest, like if I make that mistake, it's I'm not good, I'm not that, and I would start having a critical inner voice, which was very difficult, as well to go through, right? And so you look at it from a perspective, and you're like, okay, that is what I was doing. And I remember one time I was talking to one of my exes, and we had a conversation, and she wanted me to start planning dates. I promise you, I said to her, listen, look, I think if you just help me with I remember this conversation. Shout out to her, because I understand why she also felt some type of way. But Jenny was asking for help, right? And this put me back. And I remember when this happened, I looked at her and I said, I'm not gonna retaliate what she just did to me, but I'm gonna mark this though. Like, I don't like that, right? So we were having a conversation. She wanted me to, because it was happening during COVID season. So COVID had just finished, and we're looking to go back outside again. And she was talking about obviously planning some dates and stuff. And I said, you know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. Here's my big. I told her I want to be honest. I have a big fear of planning dates. I explained it to her. I said, listen, hey, look, I fear when I play dates that it's going to go wrong or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I said to her, listen, look, I tell you what, help me out with the first planning of a date. And after that, I promise you I won't ask you again. I now know how to do it. I will go ahead and I'll do it. Because one of my biggest fears was me doing it and it's not up to scratch. And then you hear these ideas, and you have all these ideas in your head, like the date has to be you going to dinner, and then going to this, and then going to that, and then the opera at the end. And, you have a very fantastical idea of what dating actually is. Do you know what I'm saying to you, right? And so the fantastical idea in my head was like such a high level, or the date has to be this spectacular event that, I'm now, when I was looking to plan something, I was like, this doesn't feel like it's matching that fantastical idea. Do you know why? Because I had no real experience. I had no real experience of planning dates. I promise you, I had no real experience of planning dates. So I had a fantastical idea of what a date is, right? So now I asked her, I said, hey, look, help me plan the first date. And I promise you, after this second one, I will make sure the next one's after this. I got it. I handle it. I won't ask for help again. I got it. Old girl told me, you must be stupid. She told me, you must be stupid. You need to find a way of doing this. And I remember when she said it, I remember when she said it, and I said, and I looked at her, I said, do I cuss her back, or did I just, I said to her, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I was very vulnerable with you in this moment. I shared my heart, and I said, this is my weakness that I have. I have many great strengths, but this is one of my areas of weakness, and I shared it with you, and I was vulnerable with you. And I wanted your help so that I can actually process it and then see how it's done, and then make sure that next time I've got it from here on outwards, right? And in that moment when I shared my vulnerability with you, you actually cussed me out. And I said, after I left that, I was hurt. I was deeply cut, deeply hurt. But, looking back at it now, it reminded me of that childhood situation, right? Where I was a kid again, and in my vulnerable spot, when I'm sharing my vulnerable spot with you, you're now beating me. Now, this time it's not physically, it's verbal, okay? And so that just shut down any chance of me even trying to push through that. I was like, I'm not pushing through that. I'm not pushing through that. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I ain't doing it. And that put me back. Now, I'm saying all of this to say that there's still no excuse for not planning the date. I'm just giving you a reason why someone might not plan it. Again, there is no excuse for not planning the date, my guy. We are dating, so plan a date, okay? We're not making excuses for that. What we're saying is the reasoning behind why someone might not do it. Now, most cases, it's the first three, right? For most cases, it's the first three. Number 4 is a very rare case, right? But I had a recent experience whilst I was on these streets, okay? I had some recent experiences whilst I was on these streets. And now, because obviously I've done a bit more research, I have far more money in my pocket, I had started planning a different 1 or 2 dates for different people that I had gone out with who I guess there was no expectation, so I didn't necessarily feel that fear. I actually got some experience behind planning some dates. So it got to a point, a certain young lady, shout out to her, like I got so much love for her, man. Honestly, I got so much love for her. And what happened was, I liked her so much, and she was like, she didn't even ask her. I was like, no, we're gonna plan these dates. I was like, we're gonna plan some dates, right? And I remember, yeah, I said, but just give me a day, because it's gonna take me a little of a while, because it takes a lot of brain processing power, because it's still new to me, okay? So it's a very new muscle that I'm building. I need a time, so I need a day. And then it took me less than a day. This means that I'm gonna take about an hour or two to kind of like have to look at different things and da-da-da. I'm still a bit paralysis by analysis, so I'm still kind of analyzing. I have to analyze different things. Is it cheaper to do this? Is it cheaper to do that? Is it more expensive? I have to try and compare a little bit, right? So, but literally, and I'm gonna go on to that point I made about men not liking you enough, because part of it is also, it plays a role in what I'm gonna say in terms of why planning a date happened. I like this girl enough that I was like, yo, and also because I had some experience as well planning dates now, that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna plan it. I got onto it, planned it. Within 2 or 3 hours, I said, hold on. I gave her a detailed, maybe a bit too detailed. I gave her a detailed itinerary of what was gonna happen, right? And she was like, whoa, I think you might have put too much in there. Like, there's a lot of things in there. Just take 1 or 2 things out. I was like, all right, cool, no worries. Yeah, no doubt. Shout. Yeah, I'll take 1 or 2 things out. Yeah, no problem, right? And, honestly, that changed my expectation. And it changed my viewpoint on planning dates. I had successfully navigated a space where I planned, and it was detailed. I can't lie to you. The itinerary was detailed. I put time, date, when we're right. I really was going through it, man. Like, you know what I mean? The analysis was analyzing. You know what I mean? The analysis was analyzing. I really put a detailed itinerary together. One, because I hate things going wrong, and I like things to be planned and people to know what they're gonna do. Do you know what I mean? Freestyling is cool, but when I'm with somebody, I don't like there being freestyle. Do you know what I mean? I want you to know that there's a plan in place. So once she just said, oh, she's like, I really appreciate this. Like, she just said, oh, I really appreciate this. And I was like, and I said to her, I said, like, yo, this is really different for me. And something that she said just like flipped me. And I mean, literally flipped me. And I owe her the world for this, right? She was like, I know that was difficult for you, and I'm very proud of you. I was like, It got me real deep. I said, and I was behind the phone, innit? Because obviously I'm behind the phone, I'm texting her. So I'm behind the phone and I'm like, yo, oh, girl's trying to cut me up. And I think there's onions in the room. I think there's a couple onions in the room, right? Yeah, I think there's a couple onions in the room that makes me feel some way, right? And so literally, I appreciated that. You know what I mean? Like, because Elsa said proud like a kid to a parent. Well, you can look at that, but I didn't look at it. I just looked at it as a person saying they're proud of me. I'm a words of affirmation kind of person, so it doesn't really, I don't look at it like that. But, for me personally, it was like, I appreciated that. That little wording there just changed everything. I was like, do you know what? That positive affirmation in doing it and completing it, and then the person also now recognizing how difficult that process was for me, it changed everything. I was like, you know what? From then onwards, I was like, yeah, I don't mind. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna plan it. Yeah, I'm gonna get on it. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just started just doing things. I was like, right. I was like, wait a minute. Why is it taking so long to get to this point? I could have done this years ago, bro. I could have done this years ago. You know what I mean, right? So that in itself has been a journey. Okay, that in itself has been a journey, and you know, those simple few words really did change my perspective and change my heart on these kind of things. And I realized, wow, look, that fear that you had has just been evaporated by one word, or a few words, I should say, right? A few words and one little bit of action. And so now, of course, I'll plan a date, you know what I mean? I would never not do it. But from that point onwards, I didn't mind planning dates. Now, someone asked a very good question. Why didn't I ask, I know Sean said I could call him to plan dates. Why didn't I want to ask? Well, it goes back to my original point 1 in the first episode. When you're independent, hyper independent, you don't want to ask for help. Part 1 of this video was, why do men not ask for help? Because I don't want to look incompetent, even to friends. I don't want to look incompetent. I don't want to look stupid. So I'd rather deflect. Okay, I'd rather deflect. I'd rather do this, do that. You know what I mean? So rather than opening up to friends and being like, hey guys, where do I go? What can I do? What can I do? As deflecting and like, I don't need to do this, or, you know, why should I do, or, you know, making excuses. Okay? So I couldn't ask people for help because, again, once more, the fear of feeling incompetent. So, again, to round up the subject, paralysis by analysis oftentimes happens because of the fear that's behind it. I told you a story about how I had paralysis by analysis because of what was my younger self, right? My younger self. And, you know, because I had gone through such experiences, it made it very difficult to ask for help, but it also made it very difficult because I wanted to be a perfectionist because I didn't want to be hurt. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be looked at as incompetent. That has led to 2 things that we've just discussed now. First week we discussed for not asking help, and today we spoke about not planning dates. Well, we are going to talk about this tomorrow because we have another topic to break down due to this situation. And we're going to talk about I cannot share my vulnerabilities, okay? I cannot be vulnerable, emotionally unavailable. Let's put it that way. Emotionally unavailable. So I'm going to talk about that tomorrow, about emotional unavailability stemming from that situation too. And we're going to break it down some more, all right? So we've reached a half an hour mark. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And, you know, I appreciate you guys sharing your particular perspectives as well in the chat. It's never easy, but we're calling it growth in this particular part as well. So much love, much appreciation. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time, 7:10 a.m. for those of you Eastern time, 12 lunchtime again for those in the UK.